How do you build a sheet mulch bed? Welcome to the Urban Farm. It's fall in Phoenix, Arizona, and that's a great time to build your sheet mulched or lasagna gardening beds. That's what we're going to talk about today. How do you build a sheet mulched bed? One of the best things to use for your sheet mulch beds are leaves from the neighbors or from your own yard. They make a great source of carbon to actually start the sheet mulch process. Sheet mulching is also called lasagna gardening, and it's a process by which we layer different kinds of organic material together in 6, 8, 12, 24-inch layers, so that over the course of the next 6 months, this organic material breaks down and turns into good, healthy soil. Now, there's two different kinds of materials we can acquire for our sheet mulching beds. They're the kind that you have on your property, and then the kind that we actually can purchase. So I want to talk about each one of these and share with you where you might be able to find some. So you saw us raking leaves a little while ago. Leaves are a good free source of carbon. They're dry, and this makes a good thick layer in our sheet mulching bed. The one thing I love about leaves is the amount of them that are available in the neighborhoods. In fact, often I'll go collect leaves from neighbors. They love to get rid of them because typically they're throwing them away, wherever away is, but they're an abundant source. Now there's some dried organic material from the yard. This actually happens to be yams. These are dried yam tops, and in the winter, the frost kills them, okay? But they make great carbon material for our sheet mulching bed. And then we've got the greens. So these are some bok choy that are left over from our front yard. You can see they've gone to seed, so you could actually save seeds on these if you wanted to, which I often do. But this makes a good green source for our sheet mulching bed, and you'll see in a little while how we actually use them in our layers so that these add some of the nitrogen in the space to help the breaking down process. Then there's always chicken manure. So I just went over into the chicken coop a little while ago, and this is straight up chicken manure, right out of the chicken coop. Yes, I'm touching it, isn't that fun? This is high in nitrogen. Although it's dry, it is jam-packed with nitrogen, and it's something that we want to add to our sheet mulching bed. And what the nitrogen does in our sheet mulching bed is it starts the breaking down process. It assists in the breaking down process, and you don't need so much of the nitrogen in the pile. So this is what we have at the Urban Farm in our yard that we can actually use for the sheet mulch bed. And when we make our bed here in a little while, we're going to use all of this. But then there's also materials that you can go out and purchase. One of the things that I absolutely love to use is alfalfa hay. Now, you got to be real cognizant about that because you can also get Bermuda hay, and Bermuda in the desert Southwest is a noxious weed, so you don't really want to be using Bermuda hay because it'll plant out Bermuda in your garden. So alfalfa hay, usually when I get it, I buy, they call it cow hay or spoiled bales at the feed store. That's where this comes from, is the feed store. And you'll see us use it in some layers in the sheet mulching here in a little while. So then we have the traditional manure. So what we have here is just composted manure. And manure like the chicken manure here and the fertilizer I'm going to show you in a moment acts as a jump start for your sheet mulch bed. So what we'll do is we'll put down a layer of carbon material, and then we'll add the manure, sprinkle some manure on top of it, and then add more carbon material. And you'll see more of that here in a moment. One of the things I've also used in the past for the nitrogen source in the sheet mulching bed is granular fertilizer. Now this is an organic granular fertilizer called Bioflora, and we get it in 50-pound bags, and it makes a great addition. And again, you don't need a whole lot of it, you just need to put enough on there to start the breaking down process. So you can either set up your sheet mulch beds and let them sit for 6 months while they break down, or you can actually plant them right away. So I'm going to show you a process here in a little while where we hollow out a little divot in the sheet mulch bed and use this potting soil right here. This is a nice potting soil that we can plant seeds directly into or plant starts directly into. The process works great, and they'll sink down with the bed as everything decomposes in the sheet mulching. Another thing you don't want to do is sheet mulch on noxious weeds. So here in the desert Southwest, nutgrass and Bermuda grass are two of our noxious weeds. And sheet mulching on top of that, the grass will come up through whatever you put down. One of the things you can also do is just use cardboard as the first layer of your sheet mulching. What this does is this blocks any weed seeds that are underneath the cardboard from coming up through your sheet mulch bed. It can be quite effective. However, don't use this with Bermuda grass and nutgrass, as they will come right up through it. You know, I love having chickens in the garden. They help with cleaning up. They eat bugs, they eat weeds, and they fertilize for us. However, if you let them in your garden, they will eat pretty much everything that's there. So they can only be in the garden certain times of the year. So on cleanup day today, we're letting them in the garden. This is an arugula plant right here, and it's going to seed. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull it up. Ah, nice. Okay, this is going to make a great layer for our sheet mulching bed. I'll put that over there for the moment. So basically, we're just cleaning up this space right here. We're going to rake it fairly level. One of the things I also noticed right here were some onions. These are some bunch onions that we planted out. So these are some of the I'itoi onions, and you can see how vigorously they're growing already. This is a smaller onion. You can get them at Native Seed Search. They're called an I'itoi onion, and they make great for onion tops. And then the onion itself, they usually get up to about the size of a quarter. So we're just going to pull these out and save them for later. Oh, look at that. We got some earthworms in there too. Okay. So we're just going to take these, set them aside. And now we're ready to go. And what I want you to notice is the simplicity of what we're doing here. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a bucket of leaves. Remember those leaves we raked earlier? I'm going to grab the bucket of leaves, like so. And we're just going to spread them. And we can just spread them like that. This will make a great first layer. And you just rake them so that the bed is level. That's our first layer of lasagna gardening. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the arugula from a little while ago and just put pieces of it around. This will break down our compost. This is really composting in place, and over the course of the next 6 months, all of these greens are going to break down nicely. And these got a little bit. These have a little bit more nitrogen in them, so that this will assist in the process of breaking down all of the organic material that we're putting in the space here. One of the other things you can use in your sheet mulching green level is grass clippings. You just have to be careful though when you're cutting the grass that there are no seeds in it. Because if you were to use Bermuda grass clippings and there were seeds in it, you're going to plant Bermuda grass throughout your garden. So you don't want to do that. So next what we're going to do, then we're going to add another layer of leaves. We're just going to, again, rake them so that they cover all the greens. Generally, this isn't a perfect science, so we can do a little bit here, a little bit there, so that it gets nicely mixed. Next thing we want to add is some source of manure. So we can add composted manure, we can use fertilizer, we can use chicken manure, whatever kind of manure you have, and we don't need a lot, we just need a little sprinkled on top. So we're going to add that next. So this is that granular manure we talked about earlier. It's called Bioflora, and we don't need a lot of it. So basically I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of it here like this. This helps in assisting the browns break down. So the leaves, and in a moment you're going to see the alfalfa that we put in that'll help break that down as well. One of my favorite things to use in sheet mulching is alfalfa hay. The only problem with alfalfa hay is it can be a little bit pricey. This is what it looks like, and it comes pretty dense. You can see that that's pretty dense. So what we have to do is we have to fluff it. So I'm going to bring it over here in the bed, and just start fluffing it. Okay? And this is what that looks like. You can see how, after a quick bit, this is getting pretty thick, this sheet mulching. These layers can be 6-8 inches thick each, and I've actually made sheet mulch beds that are 2 to 3 feet thick. And it really does work like that, and then after about 6 or 8 months, it breaks down into this really nice 2 or 3 inch layer of soil that we've created. Make sure that that's a chunk right there. Make sure that those chunks get broken up. And you'll notice that this sheet mulching is getting higher than the edge of the bed. Don't worry about that. Very quickly in the next few months, it's going to break down. All right, our next layer. One of the nice things about alfalfa hay is that it does have some nitrogen in it itself, so it helps the process, but I always then add just a little bit of the fertilizer or manure. Just sprinkle it on a little bit like this. Then what we're going to do is we're going to add another layer of alfalfa. And you can add alfalfa to your heart's content. This could be 36 inches tall if you wanted it. All right, so we have a sheet mulch bed. It's really that simple. And one of the things that we can do is plant seeds or plant starts. So I've got an artichoke here, and I've got some sorrel seeds. So what we do, it's really quite simple, is you make a divot. I'm just gonna make a divot here. And then I'm gonna take some of this potting soil that we talked about earlier. Just gonna take handfuls of this potting soil and fill up the hole. So now what I have is a divot of potting soil in there. Okay? One of my favorite greens is sorrel. Sorrel is a kind of a lemony tasting green. It goes great in salads. So I've got a packet of sorrel here. We're just going to take the seeds, put a few seeds in my hand. I don't know if you can see that or not. Those are sorrel seeds. These are so cool. And I'm just going to sprinkle them in this area like so and cover them up. Maybe even add a little bit more potting soil to the top of them. Okay. We're going to come back in a minute and water this whole thing. And watering it regularly really speeds the breaking down process. So, we've also got an artichoke. And this is a plant start. Okay? So you can plant with seeds like we did here, or we can start with a plant start. So we're going to start with this artichoke. Okay? So we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to go in here and hollow out a divot. Okay. So then we'll take this potting soil, and it's really good stuff. We're just going to fill the divot again. But rather than the plant going right on top like the seeds did, what we do is we'll make a divot in the potting soil and nestle the artichoke right into that. Then I'll add a little bit more soil around the base of the artichoke. Now all there's left to do is water, and wait for our food to grow. This is my favorite part. It really nurtures the lazy gardener in me. So, really all you need to do here is just keep this wet every 3 or 4 days. If you're doing it in the middle of the summer and it's in the desert, maybe every other day. Really, building healthy soil and creating a nice, thriving environment for your garden is this easy. So I really encourage you to jump in and give this a shot.